as a voter. And we want to hear your feedback from WhatsApp na pale X. Let's see. Again, swali ni una vote this time round. Watu wanasemaje pale X na pale WhatsApp. Dennis Muthomi Muriungi, aspiring Buri MP, Kenyan youth. The power to change our country is in our hands. Let's turn up in large numbers and vote for a government that works for everyone. One that is honest, inclusive, and delivers real change, not empty promises. Our future depends on us. All right, Dennis Muthomi, all the best as you try and campaign. Another one says, history ya ID ku expire ni kama we Kenyans are sold. Tumeuzwa walai because tunajua what expires is a passport. Are we aliens? Are we aliens? Swali nyeti. Johnson anasema, K24 habari zenyu poa sana Johnny. I'm Johnson Mwaniki from Kitui. ID should be free. Government should do away with the 1,000 fees for replacement of ID. Okay, Johnson, we hear you. Charles from Nanyuki says, hii ni style ya kupoteza ID ni style ya kutufungia sisi wana youth to see vote, just as one of our injectors here on studio said, and we're going to hear from him in a minute. Kiarie anasema kuvote ni ya nini na hakuna kazi wanafanya kando na majivuno mbele ya Wakenya walalahoi. Tena kama una vote mwenye hautaki ukimwangusha anapewa job. I'm Kiariet Heves from Old Game. Kiarie umeuliza swali nyeti sana, and we're going to discuss that in a minute as well. Ernest is saying, hello, from Namanga, Mimi na vote, but I want to tell my fellow youth, let us register, let us have ID and vote. Our vote is the only sound we have and will bring changes we want to our wards, constituencies, country and nation. Thanks, greetings to my mom. Aya, metuma salamu kwa mamake Zaituna Misenya Shikuku. Lovely, says Ernest. All right, so Kagina nataka kukurushia. I feel like tumekaa huku sana. Please, take it over with your lovely panelists.
Well, indeed, Ms. Kahiro, thank you. On this side of the panel, of course, we have very interesting guests with us. I'll just start by introducing them. From the very left, we have a lady, that is Karen Wamboi from Ilog. She will tell us what that is and what that means. Then we also have Fidel Castro, who is the Vice President, I believe, or Vice Chair for the National Youth Forum. Correct. Both with us here. Just to start this conversation tonight, I'd love to know, with the question we're asking our viewers, una vote this time, Karen?
Definitely, yeah. I have to vote because my vote matters. That is one thing that I am emphasizing as a young person. My vote counts at the ballot. So whether or not we have good leaders, that is subjective, but my vote is something that is very important. Yeah.
All right, Fidel?
Lazima ni vote because it's my constitutional mandate to ensure that I remove crooks who are dealers in government and install trustworthy leaders, people who matter, people who ensure that inclusivity is on course, people who will deliver and ensure that my brothers and sisters and children who will come after me learn for free. People who will ensure that we do not put into place draconious money-tapping criteria to hinder youth and people of goodwill from getting identification cards.
All right, and starting the conversation from here, when we're talking about voting, you cannot vote if you do not have an identity card to start with. So from Ilog, if we have no voters with IDs, you have no election to observe.
Exactly. Yeah, so first of all, I wanted to say thank you for giving me this opportunity to be on show. And then from the word ELOG, as you had asked before, ELOG is Election Observation Mission, meaning that we are an nonpartisan organization that views election from a third-party role, bila kuingilia stori za gava in short, yeah? So how we're looking at it is, kama hauna ID, hawezi vote. So looking at this conversation, we also need to realize that IDs are identities when it comes to cashing out in terms of voting. So how we are looking at it is we have so many regions that are very far from the metropolitan area. So hiyo inakani kama the northeastern part of Kenya are not able to access the registration ID services because the closer, the farther away you are from Nairobi, let's say, the harder it becomes. That's just logic to get services. So we are looking at it from an area where we really need to do a lot of engagement in terms of civic engagement to the people to say that our say when you nasema wako in leadership or in government spaces, we have put them either by voting or by not voting. That is just as simple as it is, because hata ukikataa kuvote, you have voted in it in literal sense, because that means umeingisha huyo mtu. Your vote could have mattered, but because you did not vote, you have discounted your right to speak, your right to act constitutionally, and your right to ask for accountability. So people need to vote.
People need to vote. Fidel, from your membership,
Yes.
how to work on ID? Are they registered voters?
So I'll take a different direction to answer your question. First, we must come to the understanding that an ID is a sui generis document of registration, which under Article 12, sub-article 1, A and B of this Constitution of Kenya, states that this is an entitlement. It is not something that the government should give to us. It is an obligation, meaning it must. Underline the word must and ink with red. It must give us this ID. Since time immemorial in 1979, when we first had the ID registration coming to force, we have never had such a money tapping scheme. It only comes into place when a government is 2 years into power and is losing the electorate. To answer your question, do we have youths having ID? No. Why don't we have youths having ID in Kenya? We have an economic sabotage that you as a Kenyan citizen cannot risk using your 1,000 to pay, using, 1,000, and we must understand this clearly, that for you to get an ID now, you need to pay 300 so that you get a new ID. And then we have the 1,000 which comes on replacement. IDs get lost. I've lost mine a couple of times, but I'm very lucky that I've not fallen victim to this money laundering scheme here. Now, why don't you have this? I can't risk my 300 when I don't have a job to get an ID. Majority of the people we have register for the IDs and don't get them. So that is true. And to take another different approach on this is, I have this question that I've been asking myself: why should government force Kenyans to pay 1,000 shillings, 10 times what people were paying? People were paying 100 shillings to get new IDs under the previous regime, and it used to work. What is it that has changed that the National Registration Bureau is doing that they need this additional 900 to curb and use to curb and ensure that they have maintenance to produce other IDs? ID is very important to the youth.
Yes.
But, and we should also understand that ID is like our clothes. Without the ID, you cannot walk. Without the ID, you cannot eat, meaning that you will not get a job to get the food. Without the ID, you cannot join school. Without ID, you cannot get certificates to, let's say, marriage and join other institutions. And as we continue the conversation, I'll need to explain to you what Article 12 explains, so that we need to understand the difference between ID and how it helps us through the electoral process to bring in a good
all right. We're coming to that right now. But coming back to Karen, as election observers, looking at IEBC currently, which says it has not been able to register new voters since the last election, partly because of budget deficits. In terms of the integrity of the voter register come 2022, in terms of updating it, do you think this might have effects to it to any extent?
So are you asking in terms of budgets?
No, in terms of output, we've not been registering. We are registering closer to elections. Is that likely to affect who will vote?
Yeah, I think that is very likely to affect who will vote, because one thing we need to understand is this is just technical human behavior, what you usually say. Watu wakikimbilia ku apply ama ku vote when something is nearing, you find that there are people who are locked out. One, there could be reasons why people might be locked out, and one of them could be the essence that we are assuming that everyone has access to information. Not everyone has access to information when it comes to registration of voters, which is something very big that we need to talk about. If we look at the report that was done by the Communication Authorities of Kenya, it says that we have 120% of mobile network coverage, but that does not translate to registration in terms of online registration, even if the IBC is doing the targets. So there is some sort of disconnect happen where we are seeing that this is what we have in terms of data, but this does not translate to the people. So to answer your question, yes, there is going to be a very big problem, and I think we need to approach it more differently. There needs to be additional time for people to be aware that this is what is happening, and a lot of media engagement, like right now, so that young people can know, but they, in a time, will be doing registration.
But ukisema additional time na election inakaa, unasema tusongeze election?
Sisemi tusongeze election, but what I'm just trying to say is we need to expand the period that is given to encompass like more time. Like right now, we can say that the registration should happen prior. So a time like right now is very good because we have all the time to see the mistakes, one, and two, to deliberate on what can be done to create an allowance before the D-Day. Because how I'm looking at it is, if we're doing it closer to the election, then that means we are not giving ourselves an allowance to correct our mistakes. There's always going to be mistakes if we are going to do something a few days or a few months closer to the D-Day. So that's essentially how I'm looking at it.
And probably just to, before we come to Fidel, when we talk about ELOG and observing elections, is there something, probably patterns that you've noticed initially with the Kenyan election that, should we continue with the same trend, are likely to recur?
So one of the biggest things that we realized, so this is when I was going through some of the reports that we have done, is there's a sense of voter apathy where people are feeling like, why should I vote? I mean, I'm not going to be able to make real-time change, yeah? So there's that disheartening. And then the funny thing is, Kenya nasemanga ni Kenya iko online, it does not translate to what is on the ground. I think people need to know that as early as now. Juu tunasemanga ati watu wa town ndio wanavote. Actually, technically speaking, so many people in the rural areas, ushago, they vote more than people who are actually in metropolitan area. So we need to have engagements that allow that what is online translates to what is supposed to be on the ballot box.
All right, so unasema watu waende ground.
Watu waende ground.
All right, Fidel, you had mentioned something to do with Article 12. This is your chance.
So unajua for elections, kitu tunafaa kuelewa, and I think let's use this opportunity pia kueleza youths wenye wako nje, because we are not doing much in terms of civic education. That's why you see tumekuja na like easy drives kama identity yetu, telling you the importance of an ID. It's a youth-led initiative. I think if you look at the other panel, you are seeing two people wearing the shirts. One, Article 12 states, and this problem that we have as a nation will only be solved at the ballot. Article 12 states that an ID is a necessity. Unajua ID, tukienda voting, unaweza tumia passport pale, ili wa-identify-iriwe. Like sa, ndo mtu ajue, this person is Fidel, this is John, this is Kama, this is blah blah blah. ID itakusaidia, passport ID itakusaidia because it's a necessity, the same as passport unajua inatumiwa majorly for traveling, that's where it comes into force, though it helps during voting. ID naye ni kitu usipokuwa nayo, one, you not vote. Usipovote gava ikiannounce job utapata, hautaenda shule. Alafu ukiangalia hizi patterns kama sasa tunaongelea process yenye watu waezi pata hiyo ID, tuko na in a situation yenye economy yetu iko dire sana. So hatuwezi pata food, and as a comrade of enchanted physiognomy, therefore it will be wrong for me to lie to you that youths can afford the 300. If you do not have a job, means you are struggling to put a meal on your table. Without EID, we'll bring in back this lot of unexperienced people. So my advice to the youth is, the situation might be dire, but we need to tighten our belts. Youth so umepata, take it for an ID. But you know, funny thing with this government is, it's a money tapping scheme, and the only language they listen to is if you go for demos ndo nini rudi chini, ndo prices irudi chini, of which pia mimi na advise youths tusiogope. If gava yezi rudisha price chini to demos, hatuwezi ongelea story ya kuchukua kura. You cannot talk of swimming if you have not entered the pool. Step ya kwanza ni the government should put ID ifai kuwa inalipiwa. ID is not a traveling document, by the way.
All right, allow me to hold you at that. Ms. Kaira, as you can see, Arasema, we cannot talk about swimming if you're not inside the pool. And being inside the pool means that you have an ID for your say to be heard in an election. I wonder what people would have to say from your side of the panel.
Right, Kagina, your panelists have given us a lot of, a lot of gems to think about and to discuss. And especially Miss Karen, she said, I like to go back in history. Tulifikaje hapa in the first place? Why did registration of voters stop in 2022? What was that mishap? And then now, what do we do then moving forward? She's talking about time, but do we really have that time? I want to hear from the lovely lady here. Makosa ilifanyika wapi 2022? Mike, please, sorry. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Makosa ilifanyika mali the late Wafula Chebukati on the 27th of March 2022 issued a gazette notice to stop the continuous registration of voters, as is a requirement of our constitution in Article 88, Section A, Section 4, Subsection A, where it is the mandate of the IEBC to have continuous registration of voters. And that is, the new constitution actually has county returning officers who are permanent and pensionable for the sole reason that they're supposed to continue with the registration of voters even after elections. Before, they used to be brought in during election periods and then they are let loose. But it was decided in the constitution that they should be permanent and pensionable so that they can continue with the work. So we have people out here earning salaries of over 200,000 but not doing their jobs. So in 27th of March 2022, Wafula Chebukati, the late, issued a gazette notice number 4956, 4957, where he stopped the continuous registration of voters. And this process was supposed to come to a halt on 3rd of May 2023 because they were doing voter registration, voter verification.
Right.
So immediately after that, that means on 4th of May, continuous voter registration should have picked up.
Right.
First of all, the gazette notice was illegal.
How so?
It is not allowed by the constitution to seize except for 60 days to the elections. So if you're to stop voter registration, is 60 days to the election to allow for voter verification. But he stopped it like months before.
So it was illegal.
Yes.
So someone should be in court if you say illegal.
Yeah, he's in the grave.
But now he's the late Chebukati.
Yes, so in spite of what happened,
Right.
The constitution allows for continuous voter registration. So assuming the gazette notice didn't happen, or even given the situation that it happened, on 4th of May, I think May, on 4th of May, it should have picked up. but it hasn't.
Right.
And we need answers from IEBC because you people have staff on the ground earning salaries. We want to know why voter registration has not picked up yet.
So what I'm hearing is that you want accountability.
Yes, and we are going to go to extreme lengths if need be. So if they're not going to give us answers, then they should be prepared for when we'll go for answers from them. So we're giving them a time period. We are planning as, okay, there's unbranded Identity Yetu. Identity Yetu is a community of young youths who came together and decided that you're going to try and help age mates get IDs and get registered as voters.
Right.
Because for us, given the times that we live in with the government that is in power, it is of, I don't even have a word to describe it. It is of great importance that we go out there and vote and bring the right people into power.
Right.
And for us to do that, we need our IDs. And I've heard a lot of things about IDs. First of all, the Kenya Registration Bureau has the capacity to print 36,000 IDs in a day. They
In a
only
day?
do 10,000. These are statistics from the Principal Register of Persons. He said they only do 10,000. So hakuna line,
Right.
hakuna watu.
So why then are we paying for them?
About the payment, he said that the cost of producing a new ID is 700 shillings. The government has given us a waiver of 400, so we pay the 300. As to how truthful this is, he is the only person who can verify. So that is out there. But the thing about voter registration, this is a warning to IEBC. We will come to you for answers. And if you don't give us answers, there'll be good trouble. The alternative is for you guys to open and start en mass registration and talk to your friends at the Kenya Registration Bureau and tell them to issue the IDs for free, and then you open so that it works concurrently. That's the only way we can work.
Right. Thank you
Yes.
so much. Thank you so much. I hope IBC is listening. Mumeonywa. I want to go back to you, my guy here. Let's talk about IBC since we are here, yes? Wametenga the 9 panelists who are now trying to get the commissioners and the chairperson. Do you think this will be successful? Do you think we are going to get commissioners who are competent and who are not going to be biased come 2027?
Well, as was argued in court before,
Mike, please.
they've said that, well, in that court case of the presidential petition in 2022, that the chairperson, the argument from the lawyers arguing for the IBC and the government, is appearing to be above all the other commissioners. That the opinion of the chairperson of the IBC is the opinion of the IBC. That the decision of the chairperson of the IBC is the decision of the commission. So that fixates us on the chairperson, not the
Right.
commissioners.
Right.
And I do not think that is the spirit of the Constitution of Kenya. There should be a consensus between the chairperson of the IBC commission and the commissioners. It should not be a one-man thing or a one-woman thing. So this is exactly what Chebukati did, that he conducted the verification of the 2022 elections by himself, and he was overall over everything. He was superintending himself over all the commissioners. That is why Chebukati ordered the switching off of the public portal coverage in Bomas. And no one was able to question this. And the commissioners who questioned were sidelined. Chebukati did not tell us who won the presidential election in the 27 constituencies. There are 27 constituencies which Chebukati did not see as fit or did not see as important to announce to us who won as the presidential candidate in all the 27 constituencies. Chebukati was in a rush to announce the presidential elections. Why was he in a rush? So primarily, we are fixating our interest of the IBC commission on the chairperson. It seems to be whether he or she is the most important person in that commission. And that should not be the case. And when I look at the people who've submitted their names as possible commissioners and chairpersons, I mean, let's focus on the chairpersons, because as you've seen from the example I've shown you, the chairperson of the IBC commission appears to have veto powers over all the other commissioners, and he appears to be the commission himself. So looking at the guys and the women who have applied to become the next chairpersons of the IBC, I do not have enough trust in them to deliver a transparent election.
You do not have enough trust for them as for now.
In
Just
them.
a minute again. We are going to get back to you, okay? Let's go on a break, kidogo. We will be back.
Oh yes, avuka na cash box na best now mitabwine ya Kameme TV muthegino wa ready muthenya wa muthi twakiwa tuna besha kumagwa Kameme TV okwa thimo yaku hinya *317 hash. Yes, *317 hash kwi mweri 11 mweri wa gatatu mwaka wa 2025 ri ugebesha ciaku